Today, on the 17th rendition of WrestleMan with a podcast, we are well on the road to SummerSlam. We are going to go over the recent episodes of SmackDown and Raw, including this new Bloodline destroying Cody and Orton, Tiffany Stratton teasing a cash in, and the Judgment Day possibly splitting up. We've got even more tension now with Rhea Ripley coming back. Plus, we've got ring discoveries as well. We got new details in the Vince McMahon lawsuit. We got my man Joe Hendry, that everybody should believe by now, appearing in the last two NXT episodes. And then I got a takedown top 5 for you guys of my favorite wrestling crowds of all time here. So, should be very exciting stuff. I am flying solo today for the first time in a while because I've had numerous guests on these past few weeks, but I guess keep it a little fresh here with just myself for the next maybe few episodes until SummerSlam predictions, where I will probably have a shit ton of people. So let's get into it. The 17th episode starts right now.
Welcome to WrestleMan with the podcast. I'm Dylan Shields. We talk Raw, SmackDown, wrestling news, and some fun top lists. With that being said, ring the bell.
Okay, so for this episode here, I'm going to change it up a little bit in terms of format and the way I'm going to do it. Normally, I do just a PowerPoint and go slide by slide, but visually, I don't think that's the most interesting. I'm trying to change stuff up a little bit. So it's probably where the Powered by StreamYard logo is. I'm probably going to have a full screen of like any big moments and then just put it in the corner there. So there's any specific segments or stuff that I'm talking about, just changing up a little format and stuff. I know you audience could care less about that, but just want to let you know in case anyone was dying to see the PowerPoints back again. We'll see if there's a big demand for that to come back here. But since I'm by myself here, back to the normal format of, like I said, Smack Talk and Raw. As usual, let's do Smack Talk first. And I'm going to go pretty much in order for what happened. So basically, the opening segment here was Tiffany Stratton came out and bragged about her winning the briefcase. And then Bayley interrupted her. And then Nia Jax interrupted her, having this segment obviously hyping up their SummerSlam match. The big thing that happened was Nia Jax basically taking out Bayley. And then Tiffany held that briefcase. And the fans were chanting for her to cash it in. And then Nia came out right as she was about to do it. And Nia just made the greatest face. That is a meme face if there ever was one for her. And again, the reason why I had a feeling, and most had a feeling, that Tiffany would win that briefcase in the first place is because of that story. And I think I've mentioned it here and there a few times, but if in terms of like most improved wrestlers, I would put Nia Jax near at the top of the list this year. She has improved drastically this year. I know she gets a lot of slack, especially past few years, for either injuring people, maybe her corny, cringy promos that she cut in the past. My hole, for an example, or screaming mine in some random promo. But she's done a lot better job. I feel like the writing team have given her much better stuff to work with and a much better story. I think she's looked a lot better in the ring. She truly looks like the irresistible force that she was supposed to be. And yeah, she's coming off like a badass here. And this is one of her better stories with Tiffany. I like this little friendly duo. How long it lasts, who knows? Who knows? But very intriguing stuff here for SummerSlam. And Bayley versus Nia. I mean, quality-wise, who knows? In terms of matches, you can only limit yourself so much with Nia in the ring, more of like a powerful type wrestler. But the fact that Tiffany's involved in this should make this very compelling stuff. Alrighty here, so I'm gonna go over like the no disrespect, but not as important stuff for like not too long. Uh, Mission, I think her name is. She came out. She's been like targeting Nia for a few weeks and came out with a kendo stick and everything. But Nia Jax, of course, beat her and everything. So, and the other little thing, Baron Corbin and Apollo Crews losing to Legado del Fantasma. Seeing Baron Corbin as a babyface in 2024 is just fucking insane. I never thought we'd see that. And they did like a diving spot, I think, where Apollo like lifted Corbin up and took him out. But Legado, of course, won. It makes sense since they have the established faction. I don't know what exactly direction they're going here. Obviously, this is kind of like the lower to mid card act here. But like I said, like the most intriguing thing for me is seeing Corbin as a babyface. I know NXT, like he turned babyface. I don't watch NXT as much, but it's pretty unique. Pretty unique to see that when I'm just so used to heel Corbin for all these years I've been watching. I guess the other couple little things is Naomi taking down Blair Davenport. I know a lot of people are critical of Davenport. I'm not sure if she's won a match and she's gotten called up to the main roster. And there's been a lot of comments being like, "Oh, this is why Shawn Michaels is better because he knows how to book her right." I mean, I don't know where this goes from here. I mean, personally, I always say no disrespect. It's just my opinion. I'm not like invested. I'm not the biggest investment in either of them, especially Naomi, in terms of a wrestler. And those are kind of two people like kind of treading in water because they're not really, when you're not really in the title scene and you're not in the tag title scene, you're kind of treading water in the women's division. Because unlike the men that like can have storylines, big storylines without a title, the women kind of need a title. And that's where I wish we can change that up a bit and maybe give some big storylines to women that don't need titles. So hopefully we can progress that in the near future. DIY retain their titles here. I'll get the graphic up here against A-Town Down Under. Pretty good match. Both the matches from when they won the tag titles and then when they retained were really, really good. I love the build up to like their matches with DIY trying to get Theory to realize like, dude, Waller's not your friend. He's just using you, especially with the Gargano and Theory history that they had with the Way. And like I said, great matches there. I mean, in terms of the match where they won the titles, there were moments where I really thought that they were going to retain. Obviously, in the rematch, DIY wasn't going to lose right away. The fact that they had a rematch immediately kind of makes me think we're getting really close to them breaking up. Yeah, we're getting pretty close to that. And after that match, this is something I'm gonna heavily take my time in talking about. Because Jacob Fatu, holy shit, is that man a fucking menace? And again, I love that they kept telling the Waller story because when Fatu came out, Waller ran away and basically pushed Theory into Fatu. And it didn't matter if you were face or heel because Fatu beat the hell out of them first, but then he destroyed DIY. That when Gargano jumped up and he immediately caught him and did a Samoan drop, that looked badass. He did some thing where it's similar to what Tiffany does, where she jumps off all the ropes and does a moonsault, but instead of jumping from his feet, he like goes from his feet to his butt and then like leaps up from it and does like a freaking moonsault. Like, oh my god, like I knew he had great agility. I didn't know he was that good. His moveset is unbelievable, and I'm so happy that they're not limiting his moveset. They're actually presenting him as a badass. They're not they're not taming him in any way. I'm really happy that they're exploring him and having him use his full moves and just impressing the hell out of people in a short period of time. And in the short period of time, he has made the Bloodline a true threat because whether people were questioning if he wanted to believe in this new Bloodline with Solo and everything, but Fatu makes it way more of a threat, way more legit, and that is just incredible shit to see. I almost forgot before we get to the main event segment is LA Knight. Had a pretty much took all this as contract and signed it for himself, calling out Logan Paul for SummerSlam. And I think Logan Paul's going to come out next week. I don't know if this is like a hot take at all or anything in terms of Logan Paul in this feud. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by this Knight Logan Paul feud a little bit. When they met up last year, face to face in a segment, me and a lot of fans wanted to see that match in the segments they had because it would be so hyped to see. They haven't had a lot of face-to-face promos. They might the next few weeks. And also, too, Logan Paul's kind of been booked really weak, which I get. It's probably the point. He's kind of a chicken shit heel that has to cheat to win and everything. But he's defended his title twice since being champion. And the part that sucks about that is he's had other matches. He had like a qualifying chamber match. He was in the chamber match. He was in a Money in the Bank qualifying match. I mean, it's like, why the hell aren't you defending your title instead of trying to be at all these qualifying matches? He's only had one successful defense, and it was at Mania. Well, two, but the Owens Royal Rumble match was a DQ, and then the Mania triple threat, he won. And like I said, I'm still hyped for LA Knight Logan Paul. The match should be fun, and finally, given LA Knight like his moment and like a legit feud for him to have. But yeah, it's been a little underwhelming. I'm not deep into what's going on with Logan Paul in terms of any controversies or if he's doing any other outside projects and everything, obviously with Prime and then his brother Jake's boxing stuff. I don't know if that's why he hasn't shown up as much, but I was hearing stuff that Logan signed a new contract, which means he'd show up more often. And he did. He wrestled in Madison Square Garden a few weeks ago. He's wrestling on TV. Just wish he defended the title a little bit more, because even though I think in the record books right now, he's the longest reigning champ in WWE right now, currently, he's been booked pretty weak. And I get it. He's a heel, but I'd like to see him win in chicken shit ways more often and him defending his belt more. We just had this kind of issue with Roman, people not liking him being a part-time champion. So I feel like Logan Paul's kind of the final like part-time champ that we need to like. His reign's been okay, but I mean, it's time for something new for LA Knight to finally get his moment after months and months of people waiting for it. And we'll have full-time champions in WWE, but like they still feel like big deals, because I think a lot of people are like, oh, well, part-time champions feel like a bigger deal because they don't show up as much, so it makes it special. I feel like they're doing a better job of making guys like Cody, like Damian Priest, and other champions like a big deal, even though they're here every week, just because they're great characters. And so I think we can do that here with LA Knight. I mean, we've wanted to see him hold a belt for a long time, especially me. And I'm still hyped for the match. I just had to give my 2 cents of how a little underwhelmed I've been for this feud. But maybe they could pick it up in these next 2 weeks and prove me wrong. But back to the main event segment here. Basically, it wasn't that much of talking. Solo basically saying the same thing, acknowledged me and calling out Cody, and basically confirming their SummerSlam match. And then they surrounded Cody. Cody almost beat the odds, but no. And then Orton came out to help out. And those two earlier in the night, Orton and Cody had a pretty good backstage segment. And I love how they've been teasing Orton just every time he's with Cody. Every time Cody mentions defending the title or just the championship, or if Orton sees it, he looks at it. Not for that long, but he gives just like a little look at the title, like a little peek at the title. And Orton saying, even after the Bloodline stuff's over, I still got your back. So I really think we're getting close to that Orton heel turn on Cody. I think we're getting there, because Orton's going to have Cody fooled thinking, oh yeah, I got his back even after the Bloodline. And all along, Orton's the one that's going to go after Cody and his title. I'm thinking the majority of like the fall and those type of next few pay-per-views after SummerSlam, we're going to have a Cody Orton feud. Obviously, we know Bad Blood is coming up in the fall. Atlanta, Georgia's his hometown. a Cody Orton main event for a title in his hometown would sound pretty sweet to me. So just been loving that build up there. But then, yeah, when Orton helped him out, Fatu, again, just being a difference maker with all these dives and just saving everybody. He's pretty much the new Solo in terms of he's the new enforcer that always gets Solo and the Bloodline out of trouble. So I love the irony there. And they powerbombed Shield style Orton through the table. I loved how Cody was defiant too as they were beating the hell out of Orton. Cody being like, take me, you don't want him. And Solo saying, this is all your fault. This is all your fault. I mean, it's not for everybody, those type of cinematic segments, but it's for me. I dig when they do it right. I dig those type of Bloodline segments. So yeah, the Bloodline stood tall again. Like I said it earlier, but ever since Fatu came up, like almost a month ago, this Bloodline is just so legit, and it is such a major threat. And obviously, we are heading towards the incredibly inevitable return of Roman Reigns. And I keep mentioning this guy because I look up to him as a podcaster, Sam Roberts, kind of speculating about Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. And originally he was kind of trying to pitch where it's like maybe he can return later. But if for people saying that, I mean, I get it. You're entitled to your own opinion, but my opinion is, when the hell else would you have Roman Reigns come back? First of all, it just makes sense. SummerSlam in 2020 was where it all started with this new Roman character and him turning heel and aligning with Heyman and the Bloodline. It makes sense that where a new era of Roman began in 2020, another new era of this Bloodline and Roman begin in 4 years later. So that just makes complete sense. And in my opinion, I know me and Woodall had like a little Dr. Woodall from my guest this week, or last week, sorry, I cannot talk today, on my podcast. And we were debating about like what main events SummerSlam, because obviously Drew Punk has a run for its money. And in terms of the storyline, I'd agree that it definitely deserves it. But I think that Roman will be back at SummerSlam. So I 100% think Cody Solo main events. And I said this last week. The draw, yes, I mean, could be a chance Solo somehow pulls off an upset, but the focus point is going to be when Roman comes back. And if Cody Solo main events, which I think it will, you better have Roman coming back, because I think anything less would be a disappointing end to SummerSlam, unless like The Rock comes back instead or something. But I could definitely see, because I've been kind of fantasy booking. You remember in the Royal Rumble, I believe it was 2023, where they had the whole thing of like destroying Kevin Owens, the Bloodline, and then Sami Zayn choosing fate at the end and choosing Owens over Roman, hitting him with that chair and that tremendous pop, and how long that segment was, but how great it was for a pay-per-view main event. I can 100% see something like that at SummerSlam, where after, spoiler, I think Cody retains, but I think maybe the Bloodline will attack him afterwards. I could see something like very emotional, very like long type of segment where maybe at first Jimmy comes out and maybe Jimmy tries to help out. And then I could definitely see something where Paul Heyman comes out looking better than ever. The gray's gone, the beard's gone. He actually got some sleep. Maybe he lost some weight too. And he's like up the ramp, and then he maybe gives like a smile, or he just looks pissed and maybe points. And then here comes Roman, just pissed off, walks to the ring, stares down Solo. And I can even see a world, because I'm a crazy fantasy ass booker, I could see something where we even not just have Roman come back, but we have The Rock come back. Because I understand his movie schedule for like, I think the live action Moana and everything, but I think he's free to appear at SummerSlam. Like, he probably didn't have time to build towards a match or anything, but I think he can be available to be there. I think it would make sense for him to be there so we can further escalate. I could definitely see The Rock returning after Roman does, and maybe even attacking Roman and turning heel. And And the reason I say that is because we want to not just have the focus on Roman, we want to keep it on Cody. We don't want to risk Cody being overshadowed by a babyface Roman, because babyface Roman's gonna be the biggest face of the company right now. To do that, you can have The Rock come out and you can have him turn on Roman, but have him attack Cody because that's who Rock wants. Like, that's the rumored Mania match for next year. The Mania main event is Rock Cody. So you can have The Rock as like the mastermind behind what Solo and the Bloodline have been doing to end SummerSlam. And I could see a world where they stand tall over Roman and Cody. That doesn't mean Roman and Cody are going to be best friends or anything, but I could definitely see something where those two maybe in the near distant future have to form an alliance, maybe against this new evil Rock bloodline. And I could see a world too where Roman shakes Cody's hand if we're leaning towards this babyface turn, and he's like, "You're the man. You were the better man that night." Because they've had numerous segments where Cody offered his hand to Roman and he didn't shake it. So I could see Roman returning the favor and shaking Cody's hand and showing him respect. It's just what I think. There's plenty of stuff that can happen. I'm just so excited for it. But in terms of the segment itself, very well done. And I understand why people are skeptical of a Solo Cody main event. I was one of those people, but I think they've made Solo look legit, look like a big threat to Cody's title, the fact that he pinned him. And I think it can be a solid main event. And as long as Roman comes back, I think it'll definitely deliver. And like I've mentioned last week, I do think it'll be the main event. I have a hard time believing, even as good as McIntyre Punk is, possibly Seth, I don't think that'll main event over Cody Solo. That's just me. All right. Let's transition over to Raw rundown here. I guess we might as well start with what started Raw, and that was Rhea Ripley calling out Liv Morgan, and then Dominic coming out trying to get into good graces with her and everything. And Rhea's just like when a mom's disappointed in her son or disappointed in anybody and just turns her back to them and just has the hands folded. I love that. And then Liv was backstage cutting a menacing promo saying at the end, like, Liv is always on top, and you know that pissed off mommy, because that's her line. So Rhea, again, just one of the most captivating characters. Like, she just cut such a badass promo, warning her that the revenge tour would be over and challenging her to a match at SummerSlam. So good for Rhea, for her to be back on and cleared to return for SummerSlam here. It seems like with these injured guys, the stars are all aligning for them to come back at the perfect time for SummerSlam. So this will be such a hyped up matchup here. I 100% think we're in a world where Dominic betrays Liv because Dominic betrays Rhea and joins Liv because Dominic still got that heat where he still can't talk during his promos at all. And it just wouldn't make sense. Like, what are you going to do? A Dominic babyface turn on Liv and he joins Rhea again? Like, I think it's way more intriguing to see a new Judgment Day with Dominic and Liv maybe being the leaders. Finn obviously doesn't mind what Liv's been doing in the Judgment Day. Carlito just either saying that's cool or that's not cool every week backstage as they're playing video games with the chicken nugget platter. I mean, my God, man. This Judgment Day stuff has been cinema. I don't know if it's been Bloodline levels of good, but it's definitely up there. I'm impressed by how intrigued I've been with this Judgment Day story. Very impressed. But like I said, like I think Rhea, and I think Damian Priest, who we'll talk about later, are leaning towards them getting ousted from the Judgment Day because Priest seems to be the only one that truly is on Rhea's side. Brand new theme song. Yes, he came back with his OG theme written in my face, but now he's got some generic ass theme. Why? I have no clue. Again, just WWE just dropping the ball with these generic ass new themes for people. He did not need another new theme song of all people, Sheamus. I don't get what WWE's thinking at all doing that. I don't think that was smart of them. It's a little nitpick, but like still. Anyway, Pete Dunne turned on Sheamus, which is very interesting here. I kind of like that because at this point the Brawling Brutes are no more pretty much. They was so I think it makes sense that Dunne's just now off on his own. He could be a badass single star. And considering like his joint manipulation type of ways he does matches, that's pretty good for a heel character. So yeah, that's pretty intriguing stuff there. We'll see where that goes. Sonya Deville beat Selena Vega in her return singles match, at least. So good for Sonya. And then her tag team, Shayna and Zoe, defeated Carter and Chance. So it seems like we're building up this new stable. And hopefully, besides like the tag titles, hopefully we can just have, like I mentioned earlier, like good storylines with the women that don't maybe need a title. And maybe this is a good start to it. I enjoyed DeVille's like heel manager role with Adam Pearce. So, and I think she's kind of an underrated talent. So I'm intrigued to see where this new stable goes. Let's see what else here. Yeah, let's just get to it. The Damian Priest and Gunther segment from Raw. And man, it was really good. It was. I mean, not a too lot to say about it, but it's definitely one of Priest's better promos he's cut since he's been champion. We've been teasing it for months now with the way Priest has been acting, but in terms of this feud, he is definitely the baby face. He's right now probably officially more like a tweener where he's still like a heel facing a bunch of good guys. But in terms of like who's going to be the heel in this feud, I mean, it's going to be Gunther. It's going to be because people respect Gunther, but they boo him because he's kind of a classic type heel. And man, Gunther, he got personal with Damian, man, because Damian was brought up like how he had to fight on the streets for 20 years just to get an opportunity at WWE to be world champion. And that's a great line there by Priest that gains sympathy from them. And Gunther is just like basically all but saying he's entitled because he's like, well, I had a good upbringing. I had good parents that raised me right and everything. And he said like WWE wasn't my dream. It was just something I had to do. And he's more about dominance and everything like that. And then at the very end, he called Priest street trash, which, Jesus, that's as personal as you can get there in a line. And Priest had a good retort, calling basically Gunther boring. So, yeah, they've already upped the ante for this personal feud. I mean, Gunther's kind of been limited in terms of appearances the past few months because I think after he won King of the Ring, what's the point of having him in storylines? We already know he's going to be competing for the world title. So, yeah, I feel like this can be an underrated great match. I know last week there's been criticisms of Priest botching stuff in matches. I think this can be a good chance for Priest, whether he wins or loses, for him to prove people, any doubters that he has, including me, I was one of them, prove them wrong. Because the more weeks have gone on, the more I'm kind of intrigued by Priest as champ a lot more. And I'm very intrigued for this match. It's something we haven't seen, at least on the main roster. And I saw a lot of posts that was pretty inspiring of like Priest and Gunther when they were kind of like I think it was like 10, 15 years ago when they were at like their worst shape and they were still trying to claw and scratch to get into the business. And they're like, look how time and hard work pays off because now they're main eventing SummerSlam. And I've also heard too, like these are pretty much two Triple H guys. And that to me makes complete sense why this is one of the world title matches. Because yes, they are both big Triple H guys, especially Priest. But they've done a good job in terms of building up anticipation for this feud. Because while I think Gunther is the favorite amongst me and a lot of others, you never know. Because maybe with this new character of Priest, maybe they want to keep the title on him for a little bit longer. Maybe save Gunther's win for Germany. You never know. I personally still don't think that's going to happen, but it's still unpredictable in terms of what can happen in this match here. And yeah, I'm excited for it. I think any criticism of the botches of Priest, I think are kind of ridiculous to like not be hyped about a match between these two. Gunther can get a good match out of almost anybody, and I think Priest can certainly be one of them. So yeah, I mean, just great stuff, and good for these two, especially under this new Triple H regime. Who, if this was Vince's WWE, yeah, Gunther probably wouldn't even be here, or he wouldn't have been booked great. We knew how Vince just wasn't a fan of Gunther's, and Priest was kind of treading water in the mid card while Vince was there. So the fact that Triple H just like reinvigorated both these guys' careers, and now they're in a big time match at SummerSlam, is awesome. And I think looking at it, I think people like my friend Matt and others were correct, and I wasn't, in terms of Punk McIntyre not needing the title. Looking at it, I think it was the correct call because it allowed people like Priest and Gunther to be in another high stakes match. Like Punk and Drew at this point are big enough stars to where they don't need the belt. Priest and Gunther are two guys that maybe do need it a lot more than they do. So, yeah, the fact that we have another marquee high-stakes match just elevates the SummerSlam card itself. So, yeah, just great segment. Priest ended up beating Braun Strowman. This is a match I thought we were going to get at Money in the Bank, honestly, because I was trying to figure out other opponents for Priest before Gunther. Strowman, I thought, would be one of them for a title match. We got it here. Priest looked pretty impressive, and he was very smart, too, attacking Strowman in the legs, and that allowed him to win the match. So, and then he stood tall over Gunther. So I think Priest, he's not getting huge babyface pops yet, but he's slowly getting cheered more and more for his promos. So I think by the time we get to SummerSlam, by the time we get there, I think the fans will be full on for Priest, especially with what the Judgment Day has been doing. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to see that. All right, next up, and this one's very emotional here, and it was another VHS tape, but this time it was Eric Rowan. And this one definitely hits a lot of people because obviously he was one of the original members of the Wyatt family. He's the one, besides Bo, who's had the most history with Bray. And a lot of people have said this in the comments on the YouTube video, and it's so true. This is like the most time they've let Rowan even talk. He barely spoke at all in his like first few runs in WWE. And already this is one of the best, like you could call it promos that he's cut, but it's 100% real from the heart. And that's when you can kind of like combine fiction and reality in wrestling, that's as good as it gets. And that's where you get amazing segments like that. I'm trying to look and see specific things that he said. I know there was one thing at the end that he said that he would take the fans' broken hearts and he would make beautiful art out of it. And that was so touching because indeed the Wyatt Six right now is beautiful art. And yeah, just seeing like Rowan lose it when he talked about losing Harper at first and then losing another brother in Bray. That just hits, man. It hits. So I just wish the best for Rowan, and I really hope this new stable is a success. I really hope they can do it right. And that's a transition into what Gable did. Gable basically called out Bo Dallas. Of course, I love Gable's kind of smart ass but dumbass character in terms of I truly know who Uncle Howdy is. It's Bo Dallas. I'm the first one to figure that out. So that stuff is just so good. The thing I did not expect, because at first Gable came out for the Alpha Academy backstage and was like, hey, you guys got to help me out, right? And Otis and them were like, we weren't talking about you. We were talking about Xavier Woods helping them out. And against the Final Testament. And then Gable got more pissed and was like, are you serious? And Otis had a great moment where turned to him and was serious, like, yes, we're serious. And then Gable was like pathetic and left. And just out of nowhere, the Creed brothers came out and attacked Bo Dallas. And now I guess it's official of this new Team Angle-esque stable, but with Chad Gable here and the Creed brothers. I definitely could see Ivy Nile being a part of them too, and on the women's side, especially for the fact that Nikki Cross is in this Wyatt Six. I can definitely see Nile being a part of this story as well. But yeah, it's so weird how they like just out of nowhere, like the new stable's official with Gable and all of them and destroying Bo. And immediately I feel like the Wyatt Six are just going to destroy them because and Bo Dallas, when he was like on the ground, he was laughing. It just gives you Bray Wyatt moments right there. It just reminds you of Bray. Like he acted just like Bray would, like on the floor, but still laughing and even when he's in pain. And his eyes got wide. And Gable's like, "What's so funny?" And then he said, "There you are." And then the Wyatt Six came out and Bo posed with them. So I definitely think we're getting Howdy versus Gable at SummerSlam. I wouldn't see how you wouldn't do that. In terms of how the rest of the members fit, I don't know if we'll get like an all-out fight between the stables during the match or something. I don't know what we'll get. It's very interesting. And I know that I kind of said last time how they're leaving Otis to the back burner a little bit, this Gable Otis stuff. But they're still, I was really wrong in terms of just thinking they didn't abandon the storyline. They're just kind of putting it on the back burner because of this new Wyatt Six thing. Now, whether they're going to have a match, Gable and Otis, or not, we'll see. But still, I still have liked this new Wyatt Six direction with Gable because it makes sense, because they're targeting people who treat their families badly, because that's the whole motivation of the Wyatt Six. Like people who treat families like crap, they're going to pay. And Gable treated the Alpha Academy like shit, so he's one of the targets. I could see Jey Uso being a target because of him leaving the Bloodline. There's plenty of stables, aka families, where people abandon or treat them badly that the Wyatt Six could easily target. Even the Judgment Day, they could target, maybe could be their next story. So, yeah, I mean, it's, again, just amazing stuff. And this could be, and it's just been a career-defining performance for not just Dallas, but for all of them, and just a great turnaround for all the members of the Wyatt Six, just honoring Wyatt's legacy. So, yeah, I mean, just top-notch stuff, and I'm so excited to see where this goes in the near future. The other stuff from Raw, Jay defeated Dirty Dominic, with Liv trying to help out Dom, and it didn't work. Rhea came out and chased her off. There's your strong women's champion running away from Rhea. And Dominic lost again. So, and Jay, oh my God, man. He was comedy MVP of the night on Raw because he was like, man, like, I feel bad for mommy. Like, I'll come for her. Like, is she single? And Damien backstage was like, maybe. And Dom was like, what the hell, man? And then Jay backstage afterwards was like, man, mommy could use some help from me. Like, we can start slow. Like, maybe go to Waffle House or something. So, man, Jay is just, again, just comedy gold. You gotta love it. In terms of Jay himself, I don't know what the heck he's going to do for SummerSlam, because they don't have any direction for him right now, or matches, which is why I definitely think with this new Bloodline thing on SmackDown and Roman, I think Jay's going to get involved. Whether it's they get back together immediately, I don't know, but I definitely think, since we don't really have a direction for Jay right now on Raw, he's kind of just in random matches. I feel like he's going to start to reunite with the Bloodline, maybe get involved in the Cody Solo main event. I would not be surprised at all, because I can't see Jay not being on SummerSlam. Speaking of main event, the main event was Sami Zayn versus Ilya Dragunov for the Intercontinental title, which is random that they put this match there because these two were literally just alliances. But okay, they had a great match. I love how they're showcasing Ilya. He's been in a lot of Raw main events these past few months. So clearly they think high of him. And I just realized that's the wrong picture. My bad there. There it is. But yeah, it was a great back and forth. You knew it wasn't going to end any clean because they were going to protect both Sami and Ilya. And the camera angle that they show when Braun spears someone and runs around is just perfect to encapsulate his speed. He just speared the hell out of Ilya and then speared Sami. I definitely see a triple threat at SummerSlam because you want to keep like the fresh match, but at the same time you want to keep that Sami Braun story going. But Ilya being included would be amazing. So if we get a triple threat match for the Intercontinental title, buckle up because that might be a show stealer right there with all three of these guys. They can deliver. So, and good for Sami and the Intercontinental title to be in a main event on Raw. It's kind of been a while. So, yeah, anybody that's saying that Breakker was ruined by the loss or buried can just stop. Breakker's fine. It just adds more fuel and motivation to Breakker to just want to destroy both Sami and Ilya. So, and I definitely see a world where Braun wins the title at SummerSlam because it's a big for pay-per-view. So that'd be a big moment for him to win the title there. So, yeah, overall, pretty good episode of SmackDown and Raw. I kind of riffed a lot there because there were some big moments, but we're basically just on the road to SummerSlam pretty much there. There's not anything huge going on, but there's obviously great stories being told as usual. Let's get into ring discoveries here. The first thing I got to talk about is my man Joe Hendry. Not just last week appearing on NXT right after this episode last week pretty much ended and helped Trick Williams win the tag match. He was on last night and he was doing commentary for them. I haven't heard his commentary yet, but I bet it was gold since he's really good. He's a very good promo guy. And he basically said he's sticking around with NXT because he likes the vibe pretty much in NXT. So, yeah, he's sticking around. I wonder who his first feud's going to be. But, yeah, I mean, to the more Joe Hendry, the better. And for anybody who doesn't believe in Joe Hendry, I don't even want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to you. Every single person here that's viewing this or every single wrestling fan should believe in Joe Hendry. The people that don't believe in Joe Hendry will eventually believe in Joe Hendry. I mean, yeah, the whole wrestling landscape has got to believe. I mean, if he can make like a surprise, maybe Royal Rumble appearance next year or something, that would be so hype. So, yeah, just me giving my flowers to the man of the hour, Joe Hendry. I keep saying his name. He hasn't appeared yet, but if you say his name, he will. He will 100% appear. Let's get into a little more, I guess, bad news. There's a little bit more updates on the Jano Granite and Mr. McMahon, Vince McMahon lawsuit. Grant filed a pre-actionary discovery petition. It called for records from Dr. Carl and Calker and his clinic Peak Wellness, stating that they routinely treat employees and talent of World Wrestling Entertainment. Grant was kind of prescribed with adrenal trays or supplement trays provided by his office. And basically giving her like weird substances, which caused her to like experience like a lot of nausea and everything. So again, just digging that grave even more of how just ugly this lawsuit has been for McMahon and Grant. I mean, I'll never get into the full details of it because it's just too gruesome. But yeah, I'm just happy that hopefully him and Laurinaitis and any other person involved in that crap that those female employees were unfortunately victims of, or hope that they can one day get to peace, because that's just ugly stuff. And I hope that WWE's in a better direction overall. I hope it's a better environment for people to work at, because a power hungry dude like that who gives hush money to people and has so many NDAs and just everything we heard from that whole lawsuit, it's just horrible. So yeah, I mean, I really hope we're in a world where people, especially women, can be treated fairly in the workplace, especially in WWE. So yeah, just had to give an update there. Let's see here. I would say, sorry. Pause. Oh, oh yeah. Sorry, I'm only pausing because I don't know her work too much. But Stephanie Vakir debuted at a WWE live event in Mexico just last weekend. And it is insane because she just had a pay-per-view match in AEW with Mercedes Moné. And there she is in WWE. I heard that Shawn Michaels, I think, called her like directly in person, and that's what convinced her to go to WWE. And I think they kind of gave her a lucrative deal where she couldn't refuse. Like I said, haven't seen too much of her work in Mexico and everything, but I mean, I know she's been hyped up, so yeah, good for her to be signed to WWE. That's it, short and sweet there. All right. Final thing today is going to be a takedown top 5 of my favorite wrestling crowds of all time here. I'm not going to limit it to what I've just watched in my experience. It's going to be everything, pretty much. Any era, any company, even though basically pretty much all my list is WWE anyway. But yeah, I didn't limit it to any of that. I will give one honorable mention here, and that is the crowd in Montreal in 2005 when Shawn Michaels, I think it was like he turned heel on like Hogan. I think that's when they had their match, and Montreal was shaking and hated Shawn. That was the famous line, "Who's your daddy, Montreal?" And the fake Bret Hart return where they teased it with the music and he didn't come out, and he just eviscerated Montreal, singing like the Canadian national anthem, saying, "I hate this place." This is one of HBK's best all-time promos here. And yeah, just I've never seen someone have that much nuclear heat. The closest I could ever recall was Roman after Mania when he beat The Undertaker. That's the closest I've ever seen to like what Shawn had that night. They just wanted blood for him. So that was just incredible. But in terms of the official top 5, number 5 is going to be Backlash 2023 in Puerto Rico. And I think this, along with Clash at the Castle back in 2022, was where WWE started to and realized that they need to go to more international crowds. Because when you have crowds that have barely had WWE events, let alone a pay-per-view in like years, or they've never had one, they're going to go nuts when they have one here. Specifically, the Bad Bunny Damian Priest was one of the hottest crowds ever, especially like when Carlito returned and Savio Vega got involved. And Bad Bunny and Priest looked like $1,000,000 in their street fight. I believe that this was the match that truly convinced like WWE to go all in with Priest, with him winning the briefcase and winning the title. I think this match like won like the locker room and maybe like executives and just won the fans too over with Priest. Despite him losing to Bad Bunny, he didn't hurt at all with it. Most of the other matches too, they were white hot for. The Cody Brock match, the Bloodline match. Io Sky got cheered against Bianca. I remember that. That's what really started Io's rise to success and her winning the title later in the year. But yeah, it's kind of like, I think we're going to look back at this crowd as an historic one, because it was really the first that international crowd, to where I really think WWE is going to make it a tradition to go to other countries. Backlash probably is going to go to a different country every year. Where's it going to go to next year? Possibly like Mexico or Italy. That'd be pretty cool. So that's just, I mean, crowds can make a show sometimes, and this is a pure example of that. And number 4 is actually going to be this year's Backlash crowd in France. And this crowd, oh my God. Like, if you thought the crowd we just talked about in Puerto Rico was loud, this might be personally the loudest, to the point where like the crowd meter like almost broke, and like there's some like warning from like the France government to tell the crowd to like quiet down because it was like rupturing the arena. It's how crazy they were. I mean, for everything, they were just so loud. I mean, specifically, you can't talk about without the Styles Cody main event and just the phenomenal chant, that he is phenomenal chant. Oh my God. I will say it's a little lower on my list because they had like a weird 2 count chant every time someone kicked out. They got a little annoying and kind of took me out of it a little bit. But that doesn't take too much away because they were just energetic the whole time. I mean, they tried to have Scotland beat it, and Scotland was good, but they could not top what the France crowd did at Backlash. I mean, and for the fact that Backlash, it's tough because it's a pay-per-view after Mania, so it's very predictable. A lot of big stars leave for absences. So the card didn't look like spectacular besides Cody Styles, but the crowd didn't care. They were hyped for everything. They made the matches more fun to watch. It was just so intriguing to see. And I really hope that I wouldn't mind if they had a WrestleMania or a bigger pay-per-view than Backlash in France in the future. Okay, let's see. Number 3 is actually going to be a Raw after WrestleMania. It is the Raw after WrestleMania 29. And there's like a famous YouTube clip that has a lot of views about this Raw after WrestleMania. And it was in New Jersey, I think. Yeah, in the Prudential Center, because this was after kind of a disappointing WrestleMania 29. Honestly, this Raw was in WrestleMania 29 itself. I mean, they were the ultimate chant crowd. This crowd, they were the ultimate. Sorry, I think I stopped there. Anyway, this crowd was the ultimate chants. There was like some random match between Sheamus and Orton that no one gave a shit about. So they just started chanting for everything. They chanted for RVD, Chris Jericho. They chanted Michael fucking Cole's name during the match, and like JBL and Lawler. They chanted the referee's name. When Big Show came out, like they chanted "Thank you, Big Show." When's he ever gotten that chant? Yeah, they were just, man, they were wild for everything. They obviously booed the shit out of Cena, as you usually do, when he came out to start Raw. They were just known for, I think specifically that match and all their chants. That's what puts them over the top for me. I still think it's the best Raw after Mania crowd ever so far in that type of era. So yeah, that's number 3. Number 2 is going to be One Night Stand ECW 2006. And the common theme here for my top 2 is going to be crowds that fucking hate John Cena, because this was one of them. And yeah, and even just the Cena RVD main event. There was, I think, an Orton Angle match where they were just going after Orton and cussing him out. I think Lita and Edge and Foley, back when they were like a stable together, Lita was getting brutalized by those chants. Like, they were very, very adult-like chants, pretty much. That's all I have to say about that. I won't say what they said for a lot of the chants, but you could kind of figure what ECW fans would chant. But specifically, the famous one is Cena. The "If Cena wins, we riot" sign. The famous moment where he tries to throw a shirt to the crowd and they throw it back at him was just amazing. And then they just booed everything Cena did. And when RVD won, the crowd went nuts. And the Hammerstein Ballroom, where this event was at, it's only, I think, can hold like 2,500 people. But you would think this was like a 15,000 people attendance type show. They were that loud. They were that energetic. ECW fans, man, are the rowdiest, but some of the best crowds ever. I mean, the one night stand for the previous year, 2005, was really good, but this one just stands out as such a good crowd. Again, anti-Cena, which number one is going to be another completely anti-Cena crowd, but it is Money in the Bank 2011 in Chicago. I personally think Chicago is the best city in terms of like to get like a hot American crowd. I know there's cities like Philly that are really good. I'll be biased, say at my home city at Pittsburgh's pretty good, but I think Chicago's as good as it gets in terms of a wrestling city in WWE for a pay-per-view event. They're red hot all the time, especially for their boy CM Punk. And it's another one where it just wasn't the main event that they were hyped. It was a lot of stuff. When Daniel Bryan won the briefcase, the crowd went nuts. The Christian Orton match, they were going nuts. But yeah, I mean, obviously the main event of Punk and Cena was just completely incredible. I think Cena had even more of kind of like a crazy crowd than One Night Stand 06. There was way more people at this one, obviously. And Punk was their hometown guy. And considering the amazing storyline that led up to it, of Punk leaving WWE with the title if Cena lost, was just amazing. I mean, go back and watch that match just for the crowd. I definitely recommend it because it is just incredible. It's a very historic event, too. When Punk won the title, it's as loud of a pop for a victory as I've ever heard from a wrestling fan. Yeah. I mean, that is 100% my favorite crowd in wrestling history. Good for you, Chicago. But that's going to do it here for this 17th rendition. Felt good to fly solo again today and be with you guys here. I don't know if you can tell by the light here, but it was earlier in the day. This is pre-recorded. It's around 2:30. But yeah, like I said, if you want to listen to this again and all the other episodes, listen on YouTube or listen on Spotify. But yeah, have a good day, guys. We will be back to our regularly scheduled time next Tuesday at 7 p.m., I promise. And have a good week.